Hello everyone and welcome to the Google Cloud Playground. Now in this video I will walk you through the steps to access the GCP Playground and as well as talk about some of the permitted services and restrictions that are imposed in this sandbox environment. So to start the playground, click on the Start Lab button. Now the login credentials for your exclusive GCP environment should be loaded within a few seconds. So now here we have the login credentials and you'll see that this environment is valid for 3 hours. So let me copy the login link and the username and the password. So I would recommend that you use an incognito window or in private browsing to prevent logging in with any of your existing logged in Google accounts. So I'm going to open a new incognito window. And here let me paste the username and password. So once you're logged in, accept the Google agreements for this new user. And once that is done, you should be able to see a screen similar to this. Now the first step for us to do is to select the correct organization and the project. And once that is done, you should be able to see the dashboard of your GCP account. Now on the left, we have all the services which are grouped by type. For example, we have Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, Cloud Storage, Cloud Run, SQL, etc. So let's go ahead and start provisioning some resources. So here I'm going to create a Compute Engine resource for VM instances. So click on that button. And in here, click on the Create Instance button. Now please note that in order to comply with the fair usage policies, there are several restrictions that are applicable for the sandbox environment. For example, for Compute Instance, we have to use E2 medium or N1 standard or smaller. I'll walk you through the complete list of restrictions in a minute. So here I am selecting E2 medium as my machine type. And if you scroll down, change the disk from balanced persistent disk to standard persistent disk. Let me select a size of 15 GB. So I'm also going to allow HTTP and HTTPS traffic for this particular example. Now I have selected for the standard Debian Linux 11 bullseye image here, so leave that at default, but you can select any of your VM images or the AMIs as you wish. Now I'm going to click on the create button. Now this can take a few minutes. So in the meantime, let's go to the firewalls page and set up some firewall rules. So here we have the two standard or the default firewall rules for HTTP and HTTPS. So let me create a new one for inbound SSH. So in this case, I'm just going to select all the instances in the default VPC, which will just target the VM that we just created. Now the source range, I'm going to open it from public, so 0.0.0/0, and the port will be TCP/22. Alright, now that the firewall rule has been created, we can click on it and see all the applicable resources. So in this case, the instance-1, which is the one that we just created, is applicable. This firewall rule is applicable to this particular instance. So let's go back to the VM instance. Now for this example, I'm going to SSH to this machine using the Cloud Shell. So I'm just going to click on SSH and this should open up a new tab. And let's wait for the connection to be established. And there you have it. You are now logged into the VM instance that we just created. Let's now go over some of the restrictions which are applicable for this playground. So here we have a comprehensive list which is documented in the support document. Let's click on that. And here you can see all the list of services that are allowed by this playground, as well as some of the restrictions. So here, let me walk you through some of the restrictions. So for Compute Engine, as we already saw, we only can use the E2 medium or the N1 standard 2 or smaller. And the region to be used should always be US Central or US West 1 only. And also please note that there is a CPU quota which is applicable for the entire project. So a maximum CPU quota of 5 vCPUs is allowed per project. So please make sure that all the implementations would be below this particular count. And the disk size, as we already saw, we should be making use of standard persistent disk only with a maximum size of 50 GB. So if you're creating multiple VMs, please make sure that the overall size is below 50 GB. And for disk, it's the same. Basically, you can only make use of standard persistent disk with a size of 50 GB. You're also allowed to create a GKE cluster. So please make sure that you use GKE standard only, and all the limitations for the VM instances is also applicable here. For example, for a node pool, you can create a maximum of 3 nodes of instance type E2 medium only with a maximum disk size of 50 GB across all the nodes. And similarly for SQL, please make sure to use single zone only, and the machine type should be standard or lightweight with a maximum of 4 vCPUs and 15 GB.